for agriculture. You know, I think it makes us price takers instead of price makers instead of price takers. We can control the prices of our food, and we can set the prices for our tourism and leisure. And this is really good for agriculture. We're much more in control of the incomes that we have, and we can build trust with consumers, as I said, and bring thousands of people onto farms. I just want to finish by showcasing some very inspirational women from Scotland. This lady here unfortunately passed away earlier this year, aged 101, Mrs. McConkie from Dumfries and Galloway in the south of Scotland. She was the pioneer of Scottish agri-tourism. She set up one of the first campsites ever in Scotland on her farm prior to the Second World War back in 1930s. And this is her with one of her grandsons, but all of her grandsons have gone on to run agri-tourism businesses. One of them still running the caravan site that she started. And they're all very entrepreneurial. They run accommodation, farm tours, adventure, wedding venues, and it's all come from her. She's a real inspiration and a lovely lady. So agri-tourism has been something happening in Scotland for a long time. Another lady who's very inspiring is on the left here, Anne Lennox. I mentioned Kay and Anne's business before, but this family is celebrating 50 years in agri-tourism in 2022. And she's such a warm person. The hospitality that you have on this farm is amazing, to welcome people, making lovely, delicious lunches. And it's the people in agri-tourism that really make agri-tourism. Alison Younger from Old Lecky Farm, she is doing so much to sell so much of her produce from the farm to the community. They sell chicken, eggs, beef, vegetables, and 50% of their farm produce is going direct to their very local community. And she plays a real driving force in her farming business. They also offer farm tours and farm stays. Then we have Fiona Pollock and her 3 daughters running Ardross Farm Shop in Fife. These are businesses that you can look up after the presentation today, but a great business which has gone from absolutely nothing to being a multi-million-pound business selling local food. Over on the island of Arran on the west coast, Ailsa Curry. Ailsa has just developed and built a new shed which will be used for farm tours, welcoming new people onto the farm, larger parties, alongside her traditional self-catering business which she's run. And then Emma Niven, who Emma and her husband Rob and brother-in-law Mike have a business called Lochleven's Larder. Again, a large multi-million-pound cafe on the farm, restaurant and retail area, farm shop. A real entrepreneur who is employing 40 to 50 people on their farm. And generating a lot of economic impact in the local economy. Fiona Smith from Westerton Farmers in Aberdeenshire, she's selling vegetables grown on her farm. She has people onto the farm to pick their own potatoes, a lot of educational activity to bring to show children and adults where their food comes from. And Jane Fode up in Aberdeenshire, these beautiful bothies that you can go and stay on their farm and recharge and relax. Another great example of someone who's bringing a lot of, many hundreds of people onto Scottish farms. And then Joe McNichol at Drift, they've set up a cafe on a cliff edge of their farm overlooking the sea, just south of Edinburgh. But again, they're bringing thousands of people every day to their farm to eat delicious farm produce that's baked and cooked on their farm. And then the Duncan family, 3 younger members of the family that are very active in agri-tourism business and selling their meat direct. So just to finish off, I would just like to reflect on what has helped me personally in agri-tourism. And the main thing which has helped me grow my business and grow being a leader in agri-tourism is the international networks that I have from going abroad and from studying agri-tourism in other countries. I was fortunate to do a Nuffield scholarship in 2012 and 13, visited 10 countries over 16 weeks, and I have continued to do a lot of research. COVID has kind of put a stop to that, but as soon as I can get abroad, I will be going abroad to meet up with you and to learn from other people. And this has been my main advice to people: get off your farm, go and visit other people, build a network both in your own local area and in your country and abroad. You'll learn so much more from your peers than consultants that have no background in agri-tourism. So learning from people who have been there and done it is my phrase to end on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, madam. Every country has faced challenges when it comes to the rural women empowerment. It is easy to define the words, but the implementation of the actual empowerment is a goal yet to be achieved. In comparison to men, women tend to have a higher EQ, that is emotional quotient, along with the other personality traits, which helps them cater exceptionally well to the tourists, employees, family, and the community at large. Madam, along with the IQ and EQ, you have a high SQ, that is spiritual quotient, which helps you cater to the needs or the interests of the community more than your personal interests. The other day, I was scrolling through the Hideaway Experience website in order to understand your work better. And trust me, that moment itself, I called my husband and I decided I'm going to celebrate my 3rd wedding anniversary there. You are doing an inspirational work in agri-tourism sector. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you very much, and thank you for asking me, and we look forward to welcoming you to Scotland.
Thank you so much. I request Ms. Lisa Chase, Director Tourism, Research Center, University of Vermont, USA, and Claudia Schmidt, Madam, PhD holder, to guide us better in understanding Vermont agri-tourism, USA. Hello, ma'am.
Thank you so much. We are so grateful to have this honor to share our research and our programs on agritourism from throughout the US. I was, like many of our speakers here, I was very fortunate to be able to go to the first World Congress on Agritourism back in 2018 in Bolzano, Italy, organized by UREC Research. And that is where I was fortunate to meet Mr. Pandurang Tiwari, and we have stayed in touch along with Caroline Miller and Jackie Taylor and many of the other colleagues who have joined us here today. Could I have the next slide, Claudia? When I was sent from my University of Vermont to go to the conference in Italy, my director of extension told me, go there to share what we're doing in Vermont and in the US, and also go there to bring the next World Conference back to Vermont. So I went there with that goal in mind, and after some tough negotiations with the Italians, I see that Dr. Tomas Streifeneder and Dr. Andrea Omazzolo are with us here today. After some tough negotiations with the Italians, we managed to convince them to let the international conference move around the world. Of course, the World Congresses will always be in Bolzano, Italy, but we were planning, the idea was in between every 4 years of a World Congress, there would be an international workshop on agritourism. And we were honored to be able to host the first one, the first international workshop on agritourism in Vermont in October of 2020. Of course, then we were busy planning. We had over 100 speakers planning to attend, sessions confirmed, people making travel arrangements. We had around 40 different countries represented from these speakers. And then of course the pandemic hit and we needed to postpone the conference. First, we postponed it till 2021. Now we have postponed it till 2022. Could I have the next slide, please? And like most of the world, when the pandemic hit, we put on our masks and we went inside our homes and quarantined, and we were fortunate to have good internet access. So we planned ahead for a virtual series of farm, food, and travel communities. And as you can see on the slide here, we've now had 9 different sessions. Claudia, I see you shaking your head. The formatting is a little messed up. You could try the PDF version, possibly. I'll keep talking and you can play with the slides. But at any rate, we planned to go virtual, like so many people did during the pandemic. And so with the help of Mr. Padrang Terare, Doctors Andrea Omazzolo and Tomas Streifeneder, along with Anna Silbernagel, and so many others at URAC, Ms. Jackie Taylor from Agritourism Africa, we pulled together a session of virtual events. And this is what we've been doing for the past year. And during this session, we've been able to reach out to Agritourism India and say, please send us some of your speakers, some of your best speakers and most interesting agritourism opportunities. And of course, Mr. Padrang Terare sent us to Mr. Harkarat from Citrus County, who you heard from earlier today. So we were able to share his story as well as that of Scotty Jones from Farmstay USA. Caroline Miller talked about Lamathon, and we were able to feature Agritourism Africa as well. The website is there, and we invite you at some point in the future to check out the recordings. Next slide, please. And most importantly, we hope that you will be able to join us in a little over a year from now, in August of 2022. We've postponed the in-person conference once and then again, and we hope we won't have to postpone it again. We are praying that the vaccine can, quickly be distributed throughout the world and that all of our countries can come forth from this pandemic stronger, having suffered great losses and devastation. But as many of the speakers before me during this program have talked about, how farms are standing strong and continuing to produce food. And in fact, Dr. Harsh Verma was talking about the pent-up demand that is expected for agritourism as we come out of the pandemic. Could I have the next slide, please, Claudia? I now want to move to a question that some of the other speakers have addressed, which what is agritourism anyway? Caroline just shared the definition of agritourism that is used in Scotland. And that was interesting to me because we have a lot of similarities with her definition, especially the focus on a working farm. But one part that's a little different is if you're producing fiber or other non-edible products, Christmas trees or nursery flowers, for example, it could still be agritourism in the US. So I thought it was important to, before Claudia and I launch into some of our research and the importance of the role of women in agritourism in the US, I just wanted to take a moment to step back and look at the US understanding of what is agritourism. As a big country with a lot of states that work independently and as many of you, I'm sure, see in the news all the time, people in the US don't always agree. And we're not always on the same page about, definitions, meanings, and directions for our farms, for our country, for everything. So as you can imagine, there can be a lot of different definitions and understandings of agritourism. We may have policymakers using one definition. Sometimes even within a state, for example, Oregon has a variety of different regulations related to farming and agritourism. Sometimes agritourism is defined in one way, other times it's defined in a different way for different regulations, depending on the focus and the emphasis. And then we have tourism bureaus and agriculture bureaus and even cities and town zoning regulations creating their own definitions and guidelines of agritourism. So a multi-state team of colleagues from around the country got together with the lofty goal of trying to come up with an agreed upon definition. As you can see from this wheel, this conceptual framework here, we didn't come up with a concise definition like Caroline Miller was able to present, a 10, 15 word definition of agritourism. We weren't quite able to do that within the US. Too many viewpoints and disagreements. So instead we settled on this framework, which is a conceptual tool for understanding what is included in agritourism in some spaces and what is not, and then what is included in agritourism in other spaces. So where we have agreement is in the center of this wheel here, in the center of this conceptual framework. And the core is on-farm experiences and product sales. So this harkens back to what Caroline and others have spoken about, which is the importance of being a working farm. And I want to say when I'm using farm as shorthand, and Caroline had some other terms as well. In the US, we talk about farms, ranches, vineyards, and even aquaculture aquaculture operations as part of agritourism or aquatourism. But the important piece, the critical foundation, is that this is a working farm. This is a working production. So what we try to avoid in the US is we've got two extremes that don't work so well. On the one hand, it may be something that is really a bed and breakfast, not really a working farm. And then they get a few chickens and maybe a goat and call themselves agritourism. As you can imagine, that upsets the people in agriculture who have been working the land for generations, because we see the foundation of agritourism as being authentic working farms. On the other end of that spectrum, we sometimes have an authentic working farm that begins to invite visitors onto their farm and realizes, oh, this is fairly lucrative. This is working for me. This is maybe even making more money than the farming operations. And so that working farm may actually go more towards the entertainment piece and away from the production piece, to the point where it becomes more of in a sense, an agriculturally themed park, as opposed to a working farm. What we are focused on in the US are these educational, authentic working farms. And the hope is that the experiences that people have, that visitors have on the farms, are closely tied to agriculture. These are immersive and educational experiences. For example, overnight farm stays, harvest festivals on the farm, pick your own experiences, dinners on a farm using much of the local product, and educational field trips. I think one thing that's a little different in the US from what I believe is much of agriturismo in Italy is I believe much of agriturismo in Italy is focused on overnight farm stays. We have that as a very important part of agritourism in the US, and Ms. Scotty Jones from Farm Stay USA is going to be addressing this conference later on during the program. However, in addition to overnight farm stays, we have lots of other experiences. And within the US, if visitors are coming onto a farm for just about any reason, as long as it's really connected to the agricultural production, we consider it agritourism. Now, that's where there's general agreement. There is still plenty of room for disagreement. And I'll say that one of the places where people tend to disagree is on the off-farm experiences and product sales. So for example, farmers markets, we get, dozens of farmers coming together in a central space, maybe a community park or a city center, bringing their farm products with them. Our tourism bureaus like to call that agritourism, but many of the agricultural agencies and the legislation that has been created around agritourism does not see the off-farm experience in the same way. I'm not here to pick sides. I can tell you, even in Vermont, we have different people using the terms different ways, and certainly across the country, we have some states including the off-farm experiences, in other states not including it. Rather than trying to get everybody to agree on a definition across the US, we created this framework where the outer rings are called peripheral rings, peripheral tiers. And that includes the off-farm activities that may be closely connected to agriculture, like the farmers markets and like the agricultural fairs, the county fairs that again take place off a farm, but are very, very educational and very closely connected to farming and production. And then we have activities that happen on farms that may not be so closely connected to agriculture, like say having a band, a concert on the farm. So those are the places where there's some disagreement. While I'm not gonna try to bring everyone together on the same page to agree, now this is something that was discussed at length at the 2018 First World Congress on Agritourism in Bolzano, Italy. And I anticipate that these discussions have been continuing. In fact, Caroline Miller and her colleagues in Scotland have made great progress coming up with a definition even. And I know that other spaces have come up with very concise, clear definitions. At the conference that we are planning in Vermont, we will have those spaces for people to come together and debate and discuss and try to work more closely towards a real definition of authentic agritourism. And I need to give a nod to UREC Research because they have been doing quite a bit of background research and legwork in developing standards for authentic agritourism around the world. So we'll be bringing that to that conference in Vermont. It's a lot easier to have these sorts of debates and discussions when we are once again finally able to meet in the same room. But we do want to keep these discussions going virtually in the meantime. So that is where I'm really looking forward to with Agritourism India, Agritourism Africa, URAC Research, Go Rural Scotland, and the many other groups that have been working together. We will continue to put together another year of online sessions, building on what we've done for the past year and this most amazing conference that agritourism is putting on. We will build on this foundation, and we're trying to make the virtual events that we're planning in the future a little more interactive, which can be hard to do. For the virtual sessions that we've been planning, we typically get about 200 or 300 people online as participants. And so we have a very active chat and discussion going on, but we haven't been able to unmute the microphones. We're looking at potentially doing more of a roundtable type of panel, or I'll just say we're exploring a variety of ideas that we are planning to launch in the fall. So we'll, at the very end of this session, we'll share our email addresses, and feel free to reach out to me and to Claudia and other colleagues who are organizing these sessions at any time. And we will be happy to respond. Did you want to jump in? Oh, okay. Sorry, I noticed that Ms. Ravati didn't know if you wanted to jump in and say something.
No, ma'am.
Okay. And again, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes.
So in terms of what is agritourism, we've got 5 overlapping categories: hospitality, education, direct sales, entertainment, and outdoor recreation. So I think that's a little different from some other countries that are primarily focused on overnight farm stays. It's sort of a broader tent of the many different types of activities that happen on farms and the many different types of farms that we have across the US. And for the purposes of the study that Claudia and I are going to talk about, we focused on on-farm experiences and product sales. So we had a first question. Oh, that's good. You can move ahead, Claudia. We had a first question in our survey, which was sort of a screener question. And it said, do you have visitors on your farm for any reason? They may be paying, they may be not paying, they may be overnight, they may be just there for a short time. If you don't have any visitors on your farm, thank you anyway, you're off the hook. However, if you do have visitors on your farm, we'd love to hear more about your experiences. And we conducted this online survey from November of 2019 to February of 2020, which coincidentally was just before the pandemic hit the US. So we were closing our survey in February because that's when we had planned it for the purposes of our research. We were closing our online survey just as some of the first cases of COVID-19 were coming over to the US and places were beginning to shut down. Now, what that means is the research that we're going to present today is pre-pandemic, which is, while it may seem a little out of date, and I'll talk a little bit about what we're learning in terms of what's happening during the pandemic before we share the research results. So while this may seem a little bit out of date because everything we're showing you is pre-pandemic from the survey, it is an excellent snapshot, an excellent picture of the state of agritourism just before the pandemic hit. What we're seeing since the pandemic, and this is, we have some research, but a lot of this is anecdotal as well. And this has been echoed in many of the presenters who have gone before me today. What we are seeing is the farms that were able to sell direct to their communities have done remarkably well during the pandemic. When the pandemic first began and people were hiding out, quarantining in their homes and concerned about the safety of their food, concerned about the safety of leaving their houses, there was nothing that felt more safe than I can drive a couple miles away or maybe even closer to a farm near me. I know the farmers, I know my neighbors, I know we're all taking the precautions. I know how the food is produced. I can drive a few miles away. I can do a safe pickup of all sorts of fruits, vegetables, meat, cheese, all sorts of local products at this farm right at the end of their driveway. Felt so much safer than going to a supermarket. And it was even more convenient than going to a supermarket. I've been working with local food and agritourism for over 20 years now. So we had done experiments like these farm fresh food boxes and what are other ways that work for farmers to try to get local product to customers. And time and again, we were hearing, yes, there's a percentage of the population that's very interested in buying local and really recognizes the superior quality and the health benefits and the importance of supporting rural communities and local farms. There's that relatively small percentage. And then there's all these other people who, are making the decisions based on price and convenience. And for them, stopping by the convenience store or the supermarket on their way to and from, work or wherever they're going at, wherever they're driving around anyway, was the easiest, quickest, and most convenient thing to do. Well, all of a sudden, that was not safe, it was not quick, and it was not convenient. So we had a massive surge in demand for local food in Vermont and many other states around the US. We also saw enterprising farms put their sales online and develop unique ways of contact-free delivery, making delivery outside, people drive-through delivery, a car would drive up, the mass farm workers would come out, the car would pop the trunk, the mass farm workers would put the food in the trunk, and the car would drive away. And that felt, that wasn't quite the farm consumer interaction that we love and know so well from agritourism. It was what was needed at the time and was all of a sudden reaching all these customers that hadn't been focused on visiting farms and buying local. So while we saw a huge surge in direct sales from farms, either on the farm or through pickup sites or even through online delivery, what was devastated was the international travel and the travel around the US. So for our farm stays and our operations that relied on visitors from India or from Italy or even from, in Vermont, even from New York City, those visits were not happening anymore. And those farms were devastated. So COVID has been a very mixed bag, where I would say overall agriculture has been hurt around the US. Those farms that have been able to pivot and connect directly with their local communities or sell online and perhaps offer virtual tours, those farms have done very well. However, for the farms that rely on visitors who travel long distances, they have had a very difficult time. And I appreciated what Mr. Harkarat was saying earlier, how he is seeing visitors come from closer in India. He used to have visitors coming from the US. Now it's people coming from the cities of India. And they may even be staying for longer periods of time, coming for a few weeks or a month and working remotely from his beautiful place in Citrus County. We saw quite a bit of that in the US, where the farm stays that were able to be open had incredible demand from local visitors who just wanted to get away for a bit. And the farm experiences that were able to be offered, for example, safe pick your own experiences. Again, the demand was incredible to the point where farms had to be very careful about not letting overcrowding happen. And I want to echo again what Harsh Verma said. Dr. Harsh Verma said about pent-up demand. We are anticipating going forward that there will be quite a bit of pent-up demand for agritourism, for these safe, healthy visits in rural destinations. And we are planning surveys. In fact, Claudia Dr. Schmidt is going to be leading one of these surveys that will be a follow-up to the information that we're going to present. So for our research, our survey, which happened just before the pandemic, we heard from over 1,800 different farms, ranches, vineyards, and aquaculture operations representing all 50 states. However, I do have to mention that the representation was not equal across the states. As you can see in this map of the US here, some states, those in darker green, had higher numbers of respondents. That's something we're working on for future surveys. Claudia is going to be leading one throughout the US, and we're going to be working much harder to get higher numbers overall. 1,834 was good for a first shot, but really we should be hearing from thousands, 10,000 more farms around the US, and we should have every state here should be in the dark green. We'll have to change our shading options as we get better responses for the next round. And I'm going to mention that we are also planning to expand this survey internationally. So we are working with an international team, including the folks from URAC Research, to deliver this survey throughout the world, because we collected information about so many different aspects that are important to agritourism, including the products and activities that are offered on farms, the motivations, why farmers do agritourism in the first place. Is it for revenue generation, or to educate the public, or social interaction, or to build community? We also look at the challenges. What's most difficult for you? What kind of supports do you need? Who are you partnering with? And what are your plans for the future? And then we ask some of the basic firmographic and demographic questions. Are you male or female? What is your education level? How far are you from a city? How large is your farm? Those sorts of questions. Could I have the next slide, please? I'm going to give you we'll start to go into the results now. And I'll mention that one of the really interesting findings right off the bat is that 57% of our respondents were female. For agricultural surveys, that is highly unusual. We have less than 40% of our farms are women owned and operated throughout the US. And typically we find when we do surveys on agriculture, we hear much more from male respondents, but this just goes to show you the very important role that women play, the leadership roles that women play in agritourism and that farm community tourism nexus. As you can see on this slide, where the red here represents the females and the blue here represents the males, there's a lot of similarities, but some differences in the general demographics. The females were slightly younger than the males, a higher percentage, 73% had a college degree for females, as opposed to 66% for males. The median farm size for females was a little bit smaller, 50 acres versus 75 acres. And the females that responded to our survey tended to be, on average, a little less experienced with agritourism. 43% had been working in agritourism for over 10 years, while of the males that responded, almost 60% had been working in agritourism for over 10 years. We're now gonna move on to the next slide, and I wanna introduce my esteemed colleague, Dr. Claudia Schmidt. She is an expert on women in agriculture, and she comes from Penn State Extension, and we're so grateful to have you with us here today, Claudia, to share your research on women in agriculture and especially the importance of agritourism.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chase, and thank you so much for having us today. The presentations this morning have been just fabulous, and it's morning here. Hello from Pennsylvania. So before focusing on just agritourism, I'd like to circle back and just provide a really quick, oh, okay. Now I'm just getting a message that my internet connection is unstable. I'm just going to stop my video, sorry. That's just how it is in the middle of Pennsylvania. So I just want to provide a really quick overview about female farmers in the United States. And we looked at characteristics of female farmers because traditionally agriculture economists in the United States have not focused on women farmers as much. There's a lot more research out there for developing countries. So these maps show the development of female principal operators across the agriculture census year. The agriculture census is conducted every 5 years in the United States. So in 2017, you can see we had a major shift in the census because now the census counts up to 4 operators on a farm. So now we can see that we have way more female operators that are counted, and we cannot compare it to previous years. But you can see that there is a concentration along the coasts and close to population centers. And we found that a higher share of female farmers can be found near metropolitan core counties with horticulture and small livestock production and agritourism. So in 2017, 37.5% of all farm operations were operated by women. And as Lisa said, 57% of our agritourism survey respondents were women, which is much higher. But our respondents may have also fulfilled different roles on the farm. So when it comes to the literature, so we based our survey, the interpretation of our survey results also on the existing literature, and it's kind of sparse, but there is a common theme here. So previous studies have found that women had different motivation to start an agritourism enterprise in the US. They were more interested in innovation at the farm that are also expense reducing rather than income inducing activities. And a couple of studies also found that women were less economically successful than men when it comes to agritourism. And a couple of years ago, so 2016, this study came out in North Carolina where they interviewed women and they asked them about their elements of success. And they mentioned it was pursuing happiness, gaining recognition and respect, having appreciative customers, ensuring financial sustainability, having family support, and so on. So you can see that women's goals are far more focused on these more soft elements than just profit. So now to our survey results. So as Lisa said, we ask about different categories that our producers offered on their farms. So these are the types of farm experiences that survey respondents offered. Here we can see that more women offered educational experiences and entertainment and events in outdoor recreation and lodging. But you can see it's definitely more focused on education. And more men gained income from on-farm direct sales in our survey. We also asked survey respondents how much profit they made from their agritourism operation. And here we can see that almost 30% of the women actually do not get any profit from the agritourism activities they're offered. So these results also show that women exceed the men in the lower profit categories, as you can see, and that more men responded in the higher profit categories. So what makes farmers start with agritourism? So our survey also asked about the motivations and their goals. Here we can see that for most goals, the responses from men and women were very similar. And there is one category that really stands out, and that is educate the public about agriculture. So it's this agricultural literacy component that is really important to women. So here, 90% of the women rated this as very important or as an important goal. So now, the motivations are one thing, but do you succeed with these goals? So we asked that as well. So this slide shows the percentage of respondents who felt that they are successful in achieving these goals. So the interesting thing here is that more male respondents said that they succeeded in increased traffic to their on-farm sales and diversification, and an increase in farm ranch revenue. So more of these monetary goals. And you can see that in the responses where the female respondents exceeded the male responses, more women felt that they succeeded with their goal of educating, again, the public about agriculture. I wanted to highlight the revenue category. So these are the responses for the question if the operators in this survey succeeded with the goal of increasing revenue. So we can see that more men responded that they're very successful. Women were a bit more careful, saying that they're somewhat successful, and it's almost equal when it comes to the neutral category, neither successful nor unsuccessful. And also more women responded that they are somewhat unsuccessful and very unsuccessful. So this really goes along with the previous research that we found. When it comes to challenges, you can see a whole list of challenges, and we ask our respondents how they perceive these. In a few categories, more women responded that these represent challenges in operating their business. So these are availability of operating capital. And this is something that is really all over the world. Caroline has talked about it as well. This is a challenge many women face in agriculture. And this, in America, this has been documented, especially in the rural sociology literature as well. Then other issues are cash flow management and developing a business plan and managing visitor access. So this should be taken into consideration for education and extension programming. And I'm really glad that this survey is providing information, and that's really helpful. So when it comes to the support needed, Lisa has already talked about it a little bit. So one question also asked about the type of support agritourism operators need. So here we can see that in all of these categories, you can really see the red is really overlapping the blue here. Women just perceive that they need more support and they would like more support. Starting from social media marketing and management over website management and legal liability information. And what especially stands out is safety information for having visitors. The female respondents far exceed the male respondents. The only category where men indicated that they need help was product and consumer trends. So we thought this was very interesting. And to conclude, I just wanted to give an example of the extension work we are doing here in Pennsylvania. In 2020, our agritourism team at Penn State received some grant to conduct risk management training for women in agritourism. So as you know, coronavirus happened. And so we were actually planning hands-on workshops, but then because of COVID, we had to move everything online. So what we did instead, we held webinars and we produced a couple of videos that are posted online. And so we interviewed 5 women across Pennsylvania, and they shared their takes on specific production, human resources, marketing, legal issues, and all of these risks, and how they dealt with these. And now I'm trying to launch a video and play it for a minute or so. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen, get out of here. There we go. I will also share my sound. Thanks for that tip, Lisa. Can you see my screen now? Wonderful.
Know if what you're growing that year is going to thrive to be able to put in your market?
Agritourism can be very hit and miss depending on the year. Agritourism is often very weather dependent, so every year is probably a little different in what works and what does not work for us.
Our Bees and Blossoms Festival. We decided that that might be an opportunity for us to get involved at the earlier start of our season, maybe generate some traffic through our doors at the earlier part of our season. We've tried it for a few years now, and honestly, the weather is our biggest combatant against that event. And inevitably, it's a cold, wet, rainy weekend, and it just has not panned out.
We had an issue with that last year with 2 of our crops for the farm market. We lost both crops.
Pick Your Own sort of went away for a number of reasons. One is that our 5 acres or 6 acres of raspberries that we had got diseased, and so the advice from Extension was to not go back into those fields for a minimum of 10 years with the same product because they were soil-borne diseases.
We tried You Pick Apples, which would seem like a very natural fit because we're a fruit farm and we know how to pick apples. But it was highly frustrating and unsuccessful. But as we've sort of wrapped our head around the logistics of having enough people to staff there, making sure that the safety places or the safeguards were in place for customers, but also figuring out pricing so that it was a profitable activity, but also so that people were encouraged to participate in it because it wasn't too expensive. All of those things, as we've become more comfortable with agritourism and just general retail sales, we were able to re-embark on You Pick Apples, and it was a wild success the last couple years.
I would say the financial piece of the business is probably the most stressful. At times when you got money, it's great, but when you don't, it's very stressful. So, you know, that's why we've worked really hard to try to create a more year-round, solvent cash flow sorts of things.
So production is definitely something I had to really consider over the last year and decide that I wanted to invest in infrastructure to be able to be open all year round. In Pennsylvania, farming, you know, vegetable production is a seasonal business, but you can still make it work if you plan accordingly.
One of the biggest challenges is for us to provide value and educational experiences that our customers want to have in a way that we can still make money and survive. At the end of the day, we are a business. We are here to make a profit. We have a lot of employees and family members to pay, and if we don't make money, we can't do any of those things.
So we may actually be on the lenient side or the undercharging of pricing, but we are satisfied based on the monetary amounts coming in, that we can support what we need to do for the next year. That's the most important thing.
Sometimes we have sold things at too low of a margin and have then, you know, you always know when something sells really fast that you're probably have it for too inexpensively. And then we have had some things that were more expensive and they didn't resonate, or they were too expensive and we ended up having to put them on sale, and that was sort of a lesson learned. Customers are such a good feedback mechanism.
It's very hard to make agritourism work in and of itself. It needs to be part of sort of your bigger philosophy of what you're trying to do. So if you have a family farm, for example, which is what we have here, and within the nature of that farm, there are very natural things that you think would fit in, or your area of expertise, I think you slowly grow into those areas first.
As a woman in the agritourism business, I feel like I've had a pretty steep learning curve in the last couple of years, and I've sort of had to check my ego a couple times because there's a lot about this part of the business I didn't know about going into.
To make sure you've got some good help, you know, I mean, not just people but a team around you that can be a support system. And even if it starts out small, that you have at least access to legal counsel, you've got access to someone who understands financials, so maybe it's a local banker or something like that, that you have, even if it's small, a line of credit so you aren't in survival if you run out of cash, because that happens for people.
Make sure you go into it with your whole heart. If your heart isn't into it, you're not going to thrive. You have to love what you're doing to be able to make any job work.
I honestly, the thing that'll sustain you is to have it be of your heart and of your passion. Agriculture is a challenge in a million different ways, and so if you don't truly love it, it's going to probably spit you out at some point.
Even in the most stressful, challenging, upsetting, angering situations, at my core, I'm still glad that I'm here, and I would highly recommend agritourism and agriculture to anyone and everyone who is interested.
I just stopped sharing again the video, and I'm just going to go back, Revati, and share again one more slide for Lisa to conclude our presentation.
Should I jump in, Claudia?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Schmidt, for sharing some of your research and work on women in agriculture, and especially on agritourism. I want to acknowledge that Claudia and I are part of an extensive project team that worked together on the survey. Claudia and I are the only ones who managed to get up this early on a Saturday morning to join the presentation. However, we owe a deep debt of gratitude to everyone involved, and especially Chadley Hollis, who put together the male versus female comparison slides for us on rather short notice. And of course, we want to thank our funders. The work is supported by the Agricultural Marketing Resource Center, and also a grant from the USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture. Shall we move to the next slide? We have quite a few fact sheet summaries and reports and publications, more and more coming out all the time on this research. And so this link here is where we are putting all of our summaries and publications and presentations. So if you would like more information about this research, feel free to check out our webpage or email directly. You can email me at lisa.chase@uvm.edu or Claudia at cschmidt@psu.edu. And of course, in closing, I want to say, I really hope I'm going to get to see all of you in Vermont in person in August of 2022. And until then, I'm very grateful for these opportunities to connect virtually. Mr. Ponderang Tarare, Ms. Ravate, thank you so much. We are so grateful for this experience to share our work and to learn from everyone else. Namaste.
Namaste, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Lisa and Dr. Schmidt, for sharing such an insightful experience. I'm sure you've done a lot of research work. As we can see behind Ms. Lisa, there are a number of books that are there. I'm really excited to know what those books contain.
I can send you a couple books.
Yes, please do, please do.
Some have been written by my colleagues and me, and we share our work. So if you're looking for some interesting reading, I can drop some in the mail to you.
Please do, please do. Thank you so much. We all have marked the date 30th August 2022 for the International Workshop on Agri-Tourism. The Agri-Tourism framework in USA is a benchmark. As you have rightly stated, that a lot of brainstorming took place to define agri-tourism itself. It depicts that there are a number of perspectives or different perspectives that we all have, but our ultimate goal is the same. Agri-tourism is not a division of tourism, but it is a canopy of tourism from which the other divisions emerge. The research material is an asset for the entire world. Thank you so much for your presentations today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I request Mr. Steve Borgia, MD, Indigo Group of Hotels, Chennai, to express his opinion on the scope of rural tourism in India. Hello, sir. Welcome back.
Hi, I'm Steve from Chennai. I must compliment the set of women who have done some marvelous job in putting through that video. And I hope one day that we are able to do something like that to inspire the women band in India. I pioneered rural tourism and I knew the focus was agri-tourism. But I had a limited fear which did not permit me to restrict myself to agri-tourism. So I expanded it a little bit and called farm tourism. When I said farm tourism, I brought in all the concepts of the culture, the lifestyle, the food, everything. Because tourists are not coming there to learn agriculture, but they're coming to experience what it is to be in that ambit, to be in that atmosphere. So we brought in everything. But from day one, we never expected the male inhabitants of the village to run this show. It was women through and through until today. Until today, I think 70% of the people involved in rural tourism, in farm tourism, are women. We have various products. For instance, exchange of culture. There are people who teach the tourists from overseas to do some Indian dance. It is women and girls. We have a program called fish curry rice. Most people, especially those from Europe, love the fish curry rice of South India. And there are, then that is an off-site program. The fish curry rice is an off-site program. Two of the village inhabitants come, they take the tourists as a family, a limited number, or by foot to their home, introduce them to the home members, then take them by bullock cart to the nearby market. They buy the fish, they buy the rice, bring them back, cook, they enjoy the meal and bring them back in the evening. It's one of our most popular programs, totally run by the women of the house. So 70% of our programs are run by the women. Having said this, I must tell you, the purpose, the mission was something very beautiful. Our mission statements read thus: go to the villages, start with what they know, with what they have, and with what they do. And that made us very successful. When we started this way back in 90s, most people, when I went around talking about farm tourism and rural tourism in universities, people mistook it for social work, or they mistook it for poor returns. It's a poor business. It is an unemployed man's business. Little did they foresee the potential of this business, especially for a country like India. 70% of our people live in the villages, and it is our villages that need economic development because the disparity is very huge between people who live in urban areas and people who live in rural areas. And this was the most suited product because India is actually a niche market. It's not like other countries, and it's the only country in the world that can sell emotion. And all this emotion is embedded in our rural pockets, and it can only be managed by men, by women, because men are busy doing the other part of the work. At best, they can only become a part of the exhibition that we are doing, and that has to be done by women. So we transformed that poor man's business, that NGO business, that social work into one of the most profitable businesses in India, profitable tourism businesses in India. Today, the hotels that we have created in the rural pockets, very, very remote rural pockets, is so different. We convert dilapidated palaces into hotels, five-star hotels, royal hotels, where we have the whole world to come and stay. If the Prime Minister of my country has to come to this pocket, he has to stay in one of our rural hotels, which is royal to India's standards. So it is not a poor man's business, It is not social work. It is not NGO. It is a very, very profitable business and run by 70% of women. In fact, our general manager herself is a woman. I mean, she's a lady, but she's a woman. So it's a growing industry, and the involvement of women is also growing, very fast growing, and they're able to quickly add to the per capita income of the village. Like what I said in the morning, one of our prime objectives is to send the per capita income of the rural areas up. I told you in 1990, when I went there first to set up the first hotel in a rural pocket in India, the per capita income of this particular village was only 4.03 US dollars per family per month. That was the cost of one bottle of beer. Today it has crossed 482 US dollars per family per month. Beyond that, instead of just one income source for every family, today we have minimum 3 to 4 income sources for every family. So it is not a must that everybody should work. One can relax when the other two are working. This has been the most successful story. Secondly, I must admit the women are able to deliver tourism products wherever it is, whether it is urban area, whether it is rural area, whether it is remote village, the women are able to deliver the products as far as the guest is concerned, as far as the tourist is concerned. But where the problem comes is a little bit of security and safety for the woman. It's not as bad as it used to be, one. Two, the woman comes with her own package, a little bit of emotional package, a little bit of a woman in India, when it comes to marriage, she has to take the domestic responsibility. Then there is childbirth and this and that, and the woman is not able to concentrate on her career or her responsibility. They say that's why in China, the woman is paid half as much as a man in the same cadre. This is unacceptable to me. But how can we help the woman to not to be deprived of her passion, of her career because of these domestic responsibilities is a question we should deal with. Well, some today are able to manage, but many suffer. The third important aspect is, as a country, especially a country like India, needs to concentrate on farm tourism, agri-tourism, rural tourism a lot, because we can be specialists and we can be market leaders. Today, India is losing out on many markets. Say, for instance, from Europe, it is cheaper for the youth from Europe to go to countries like US, Mexico, etc. It's too expensive for them to come to India, too expensive, because our hotels cost a bomb, then our transport costs a bomb. We have made it so expensive. But if we can push rural tourism, agri-tourism and farm tourism, one they are going to enjoy, they will experience the country as it is, but staying in a different atmosphere, an atmosphere they may cherish because it is authentic Indian experience. When you come to India and stay in cities and stay in the branded hotels, they are no way different from the hotels in Europe or the US. No way different. It's the same kind of bed, same atmosphere, same similar building, same, because the brand is the same. But when they get into agri and farm and rural atmospheres, it is so different. It is India. India lives in the rural regions of the country. So there will be a whole transformation. The world will look at India with new eyes. I think that is where and when India will win. So the three aspects. First, I think we need to see how to empower women more into this business. Two, build the infrastructure to help more entrepreneurs, the women entrepreneurs, take over this task. And three, the country needs to come out with some beautiful policies and help people who are going to concentrate on rural regions. Having said all this, I must say this is one of the most beautiful, passionate, and profitable business anybody can get into. And I have been in this for the last 30 years. We not only run the hotel, we are like little kings in that region. I told you this morning that we build toilets in schools, we build this, that. And we also create museums in that region. Every hotel of ours in the rural region will contain a museum. And today it has been declared that we are the largest, one museum has been declared as the largest single collection of museum artifacts by any civilian in the country. So this is the potential of this, I don't know whether I should call it passion or business, but I managed to put both together. And I'm sure most people, including Pandu, who's doing such a marvelous job in Maharashtra, it's all a result of passion, nothing beyond that. If it had been business, it would have been something else. It is sheer passion, and we need to translate this into a business format and move into the youth of the country and the women of this country. And they will provide this much better than what I do or what Pandu does or our colleagues on the foundation of Aarti does. And I wish everybody involved in this all the best and do lot more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. As you rightly said, that you have managed to combine passion as well as business together. And that is why you're one of the leading entrepreneurs today. We have a lot to learn from you, sir. Thank you for your presentation and your time.
You're most welcome to come and visit us at the site anytime.
We will.
All of you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I request Jane Eckert, Madam, Eckert Agri-Marketing USA, to help us understand the details of Eckert Agri-Marketing USA. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Okay, very good. Thank you. I'm just great. Thank you. I'm coming to you today from Florida in the United States and pleased to participate in this program. I won't have
How are you, there, ma'am? How are you?
I am very fine. Thank you. I appreciate your invitation. We've been trying to get together for a number of years and we finally made this happen. So thank you. Just in way of my own background, I come from a family farm. Actually, our family were farmers in Germany. They came to America in 1837 and purchased land that was suitable for apple orchards, just what they had been growing in Germany. And our farm has grown since 1837 that we have over 1,000 acres in horticulture production, which for horticulture is quite a bit, from small fruits like strawberries, blackberries, and all of our crops are also pick your own, peaches, apples, pumpkins. You can cut your own Christmas tree, snip your own flowers, or eat in our 300-seat family restaurant. So we've had a lot of generations. I'm 6th generation. I retired. We have our 7th generation actively involved in the farm, and our 8th generation just recently began. And I can assure you these young people would not have come into our business if it had not been thriving, if it had not been making money, and they saw an opportunity after college to contribute to something we all cherish, and that was our family heritage and our family traditions. I started my own career as a marketing in Los Angeles, California with a big oil company and returned to our family farm when I was 40 to help grow it. And we had been having about 80,000 visitors. And by the time I left in 2001, we have over 300,000 visitors. And now we have over 400,000 visitors visiting multiple locations in Southern Illinois, which is outside of St. Louis, Missouri. But I left the business knowing that I could contribute more in 2001, but wanted to turn it over to the 7th generation. And what did I know? I knew family businesses I knew farming, and my whole background has always been marketing. So I started my own business, Eckert Agri-Marketing, in 2001 and consulted with farms across North America and spoke at many tourism meetings. And it wasn't long before I really understood the connection that these two industries have of agriculture and tourism and the intersection thereof. And I understood, after having lived in Los Angeles for sure, why people enjoyed coming to our farm and what they got from it. And I was able to use my marketing expertise to really grow the business, not only through what we grew, through our retail presence, but through a lot of special events. But the pandemic certainly changed everything. I was retired from the business, but I listened and watched in on our family meetings to see that most important thing during the pandemic, and it still is food. We all have to eat. And our farm quickly adapted to curbside pickup, online food ordering, and that business grew way beyond our expectations. We had to close our restaurant, so the 300-seat restaurant couldn't be open for months, and we were able to actually earn as much money through curbside pickup of food delivery as we had through the restaurant. So it taught a lot to me, and then as we went into the fall season, where we typically have large numbers visit our farm for apple and pumpkin season, it was the one activity that I think people felt safe leaving their home for, in their cars, with their kids, and going to a farm. So I'll have to say, last year was an excellent year for Eckert Farms. We exceeded our own expectations significantly. And I think it was because people were putting greater value on family. They were putting greater value on preparing meals at home. And they were reverting to kind of simpler family time and times together. And that really served to benefit us in the United States, I believe, in a lot of agritourism areas. I've just recently joined in, so I don't know how many of you are producers versus researchers versus extension people that are helping others. But it's often asked of me, because of the 15 years I spoke so much at farm meetings, for the people that want to get started, is how do I get started? And I want to make sure we understand that, because you have to look at the assets of your property, look at your buildings, look at the topography of your property. Maybe it's lakes, ponds, caves, convenience to local attractions, your scenery, maybe you're a good home cook. You have to assess what it is you should be doing. No one can really tell you, because it's you and it's your, I've heard the word passion used already about a half a dozen times, and I've just been involved with this for an hour. And I totally believe it is your passion. And while you might think big, you think like Eckert's, we started small. We started in 1910 with a roadside stand, and it's grown from there. And what can be repeated again is that we have to make coming to the rural areas, coming to our farms, ranches, wineries, we have to make it an experience, something people don't get in the big cities. And whether you're dealing with attracting people from 50 miles away or 5,000 miles away, it all comes down to the same thing. Let's make it memorable, and let's create some experiences that they are willing to drive from the city, drive to come to your lodging place out in the country, in the rural areas, and see and do things they just can't do at home. When I started my own business in 2001, very quickly, and a couple of years into it, I was speaking in Hawaii, which was a great gig, great place to go, and became friends with people there in the Hawaii Farm Bureau. And they began asking me, how do we get people to travel to Hawaii for farms? Everybody knows Hawaii for beaches. And I said, that's true. And so that's how I also got into with my own business, creating international and United States destinations where I gathered farmers to travel. And I'm going to share with you some of the international experiences I had that just can't be replicated by most people. It had to be on that farm. It had to be on that property. I have now taken groups for 12 years. Last year was the first year I obviously could not take, well, I did take them. We had a trip in early March to Chile. This year we do not have a trip, but next year we're already planning a trip to Greece, And after hearing more about India, I know that India will be on my list for the future. But we've taken groups to Costa Rica, to England, to Italy, to Spain, to Australia, to New Zealand, Chile, Cuba, to see the rural settings in these places. And it started with just farmers that are with me, but now they've kind of become famous, and that people that are friends of friends that have come on trips now want to visit these rural destinations around the world, because as seniors in the United States, we've traveled many places, and we saw kind of what I call, you know, the A sites, the big sites. Now what we want to do is get to know the people. And the best way to get to know the people is to go out in these rural settings. I said you evaluate your property, you start small, you make it an experience. But the other thing that we have to continually help with farmers to understand is you charge for these experiences. So often in my personal consulting, and I've worked with probably 150 farms now in North America, they kind of said, well, no one will pay to do this. And I'm here to tell you, people will pay if you create a nice experience. If the front gate looks attractive, if you're welcoming, you are now leaving the sector of agriculture that you're comfortable with and embarking on tourism or entertainment. Therefore, this venture is not for everyone, but those that can make that leap and willing to charge for it, you can have a more economically viable living for yourself, your family, and extended family members, as we have been able to include our now 8th generation in operations at our farm. So if you remember, tourists will pay for these experiences. Let me take you on a few of my trips and share with you what we did. Hawaii, yep, that's not international, but when you leave the United States and fly as far as we did from Florida to Hawaii, that was almost an international trip. But they did something there that we do see in the United States as well, that you don't think of as agritourism, but there you can rent your own coffee tree. You pay for production of renting your own tree. They take pictures of it every month or so, and they actually post online your tree. They show you the process every time that tree has been managed, whether they had to prune it, whether they had to get rid of some bugs, whether they're ready to harvest, whether they're mowing underneath it. There's a webcam on your tree. And once they were actually harvested, those beans are kept separate, sent to you either ground or fresh, and you have ownership in some piece of agriculture in Hawaii. That's been done here in the United States as well, with apple growers, with other types of fruit growers that I know as well. So who'd think that you could just rent a tree on your property, put a webcam on it, and all of a sudden now this becomes a $500, $1,000 value for a few bags of coffee that will be sent to you later in the year. And they made it successful. Now a flower farm, it's beautiful to go visit a flower farm, but what would you expect in Hawaii to do at a flower farm is we sat at tables and we all strung up and made our own leis to wear. And that was about the second or third day there. And leis will last a long time if you kind of put the flowers in the sink in your hotel room overnight. And every day we wore the leis that we made. We selected the flowers, we strung them. So that's something unique to that flower farm that I couldn't do as a horticulture farm in Illinois. On a ranch in the Big Island of Hawaii, it's so vast, so very vast, that the only way they could herd the cattle and move them from one field to another was on ATVs. So they had a lot of ATVs in groups. We went out and joined the cowboys on our own ATVs and went out to herd the cattle to move them to the fields. Then, of course, we had a wonderful lunch served by the ranch hands. So there were simple things. It wasn't necessarily a lot of money spent. They were activities that they were doing normally that we could do and join in the fun and have it as a first-time experience, because I've truly never made my own lei before. In Israel, there are kibbutzes there, and we visited a kibbutz in both the north and south of Israel, and we were in kibbutz Yahel and stayed there 2 nights. And early the next morning, they said, we're going to have a special treat for you for breakfast. And they loaded us in kind of very dilapidated vans We went to the far extent of their farm that bordered Jordan. And out in the middle of this field, they had just put up, 8-foot folding tables and chairs, created a campfire, and made us this most wonderful breakfast in this huge, huge skillet, nothing fancy, as the sun rose. And we all were just in awe of the beauty of being outside in an apple orchard, which many of us were familiar with, and how this meal could have made us feel so special to be part of their culture. And truly it was learning about the culture of the kibbutzes in Israel. Now, when we go to Italy, Italy is known for wine tasting, and I do believe wine tasting is a little bit the grandfather of agritourism, because when I got started in my own business and speaking at tourism meetings in the early 2000s, tourism folks would say, well, what's there to do at your farm? And I'd say, well, do you promote wineries now? Oh, yes, they understood that wineries could be promoted. I said, well, we do the same thing, but only differently. And we went to this winery where the owner, Pier Luigi, I'll never forget him, Tinoto Tarsiano Winery, was the best person to have ever given a wine tasting demonstration that I've had. And I've been to many, many wine tastings, more than I can remember. But he told us the way to swirl the glass. He showed us how to put our nose in the glass to get the bouquet. He made it such a special experience, and food pairings with that of course we all spent a lot of money shipping this wine home. He happened to have a US distributor, so it wasn't as difficult as it may sound. But as I said, part of it is getting people to spend the money. Well, we spent the money for the wine tasting, we spent the money for the meal, but we spent probably 4 or 5 times more in buying the bottles of wine that probably were no different than we could have gotten here from California Wines or any other state, but they were special because we were on the farm. We had the experience with Pier Luigi of the best wine tasting I've ever had. Another thing in Italy, and the gentleman that spoke before about lodging, was a farm, was an old castle that was totally dilapidated out of Orvieto, Italy, that it would be left abandoned. And somehow some farmers or some people from the city wanted to get into farming, bought that property mainly for the acreage, and then began to realize, wait a second, this property could be renovated and it could be put back to its splendor. It's the little horseshoe street is all paved brick. And we spent one night there and had the best time because we were the only group that could be there. We had a maximum motor coach of about 36 folks, and we stayed in our own castle, right on a farm outside Orvieto, Italy. And the other thing we think of for Italy, and it's not as true as we might think, is that we're on an organic farm. And the first thing was just walking this acreage that was really, by my standards, very small. Probably about a 15, 20 acre farm on a hillside slope outside of Naples, Italy. And we picked tomatoes. We didn't know why we were doing it. We all were told to pick 1 tomato, 1 green pepper, 1 onion. And we did that and they took it away. And then we sat for a very nice demonstration on other things that they do at the farm, only to be moved into an area with tables where we learned to make our own pizza with the fresh things we had just picked. We learned how to spin the pizza. And we got pretty good at spinning the pizza and making the dough. And in groups of 6, we left our tables, went up, made an individual sized pizza. They put it in the oven. We got the pizza that we made back. We had on a chef's apron. We had on a chef's hat. And that's an experience that none of us will ever forget. So these are very memorable experiences. Let's see, we're in France. One thing in France I didn't know about, we're again in an apple orchard and we're thinking, okay, we're apple growers. We know most everything there is to know about an apple orchard. And all of a sudden the owner brings out, kind of tethered with him, about a 300-pound hog, pig, however you want to call it. And he said, I want to show you something that this guy has been trained to do. He had a name and I forget it now. And this was a truffle hunting hog. Hunting truffles which are truffles or mushrooms, with his snout. The handler gave him a command, and the pig would just start walking in the rows of the orchard. And all of a sudden he'd snick it, put his snout up in the air and kind of flicker his nose. And then he'd, as big as this guy was, he'd put his nose down on the ground, and right there where he'd put his snout was a truffle that the owner picked. And that's how they harvested their truffles. And truffles are, if you research them, are very expensive commodity. Only high-end restaurants can afford them. And if you buy truffle oil versus olive oil, you'll quickly see that there are not many of them. And that's why that was so special. But I can't think of anywhere else that I will ever go that I will see a truffle hunting pig that was a very successfully trained pig from when he was young. Outside of Nice, I am watching my time, Pendrin. One morning we were given the opportunity by the local fishermen to get up, and this was optional for our group, get up at 4 because they went out fishing before the sun rose. And aquaculture is also farming. And as we go to these various places, there's a lot of things that we do that traditional agriculture, horticulturists don't think of as farming, but aquaculture is very successful in many places. And so maybe, only 20-25% of the group are willing to get up at 4, go down to the water, get on their boats as they cast their nets. And they didn't pull their nets out of the water until the sun began to break. And they said the nets were filled with fish. I mean, and it was such a special experience that all the people that weren't willing to get up at 4 a.m. really regretted it. But these are the kind of opportunities when we plan international trips that we're looking for. What's special? What is unique about the area? What is something that you could provide that wouldn't be available in France? And I'm sure there are many things that you have there. In New Zealand is particularly known for farm stays. They have a farm stay association. And while we went to some interesting agricultural operations, we wanted to stay in both the North Island and the South Island of New Zealand, have a farm stay. And we were able to arrange with this organization that the motor coach pulled up in a meeting point, and all of these farmers with their cars were there. They could take between 2 or 6 of us to their home for the night, for dinner, for breakfast the next morning, and out to do some chores. And we had a dentist along that really his wife was involved in agriculture in Nova Scotia, but not, he didn't know much about it. And he had to milk a cow. And for him, when we all got back to the motor coach the next afternoon and started sharing the stories about farming in New Zealand, we all had different stories of what it was like to work on a farm in New Zealand. And that really was very special. And we did that both in the North Island and the South Island, and found being able to relate to a farmer one-on-one is very special, whether you grew up in a farming background or you were the dentist from the city in Nova Scotia. It was still a very wonderful, unique thing to do. One year we went to Alaska. There were a number of people who had never been to Alaska, and they have very small farms and ranches there, and they have very large ones. At this one large ranch that also had lodging where we were helicoptered up to a glacier that we could see as their property ascended, a very high glacier where they set up a dog sledding camp for the summer. For the visitors that stayed in their lodging, we could go dog sledding. And it was real. It wasn't just one of these kind of phony things that you do off of a cruise ship. This was a real experience. First of all, flying in a helicopter to go up to the top of a glacier and then see these guys who camp out, and there was a gal too, camp out with the dogs in the summer to be able to provide a dog sledding experience. And to be able to take the reins and yell mush, mush was pretty funny, but pretty special. One farm had a stream. Once again, I said, look at the assets of your property. What do you have? And we went there and we panned for gold, just like the early settlers did that left the United States, left the lower 48 and went up north to try to seek their fortune and pan for gold. And they still are doing that today. And several of us found these little tiny little gold nuggets. They understood the opportunities that travelers have wanting to seek new experiences, wanting to seek something that's special and unique to your region, to your culture, to your area, to seek the unexpected, because these type of things are not commonly given on motor coach tours. They're not typically provided on cruise ships, although cruise ships now are learning that shore excursions are meant to be special experiences. I was speaking in Canada and Alberta, and was to fly into Calgary, and my plane got delayed, and it was met at the airport late. It was dark, and we were driving to one of their agritourism destinations that was a lodging experience, because the next day we were going to have a meeting there. And I'm thinking, we leave the big lights of the city on the interstate, and then we get to oil roads, and all of a sudden as we enter the ranch, it's gravel. Gravel is fine. You know, so we go there. I was exhausted from delays of traveling, that I get to my room and collapse. And the next morning I had failed to close the curtains, hadn't really known that they were open. And the sun is pouring through the window. And I'm thinking, well, what makes this place so special? And I pull back the curtains, and there in front of me are the Canadian Rockies. The view that this farm and ranch had is not one to be forgotten. It was so special. And the woman there, the family had been in farming, had been in cattle business, and cattle prices have been depressed in cycles forever, for years. And what did she do? She began entertaining people in her home, to where now they've built a bunkhouse. They can accommodate about 40 people. And she's expanded her home kitchen to be able to feed them breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and built a barn where people come. She has quilting weekends, she has knitting weekends, she has bridge weekends, she has girlfriend gatherings. The woman has capitalized on really women weekends that want to have an outing together and be able to laugh and have fun and eat good food and not have to have cooked it themselves. So the Bloomin' Inn Ranch was spectacular. I hadn't even expected that it was going to have the view it had, or to be in the midst of the country. They also had something I just want to say, is that if you live in areas, and many of you do, that we did stargazing there. And just in the 2 weeks ago, April 26th, in the Naples Daily News, the headline says, "Look up." And this whole article is now called about astrotourism, going places to look at the stars. And this particular place they were touting was in Bali. But that more places are recognizing, when you're remote, maybe it's not what's on the ground that's so significant, maybe it's what's in the sky. Because when we live in urban areas, you don't see the sky. I'll be wrapping this up now, but I will say, and I've taken you a little bit on my international journey, but I hope to have many more. Women are the most creative in coming up with new ideas in agritourism. Without a doubt, that is what I see and have seen over the course of all of these years I've been involved. Remember just to follow your passion. If you like to do something, maybe it could be yoga. I've now seen yoga on family farms, and yoga with the llamas, with the baby goats on top of you. Sewing, fishing, animals, whatever it might be, there could be an interest of people to want to come and do it. And I might not have even done yoga before, but it certainly sounded interesting to me to go having a goat sit on my belly while I try to do yoga. Create interactive experiences. People don't want to just see and watch. They want to do it. They want to participate. They want to be active. So come up with active ideas of tourism. And as a farmer, I know farms are overwhelmed, as our family farm had been before I got there, but how do we get people to come here? How do we market this? And I can assure you, your tourism entities are the professionals. They know what they're doing. They have the money. So consult with them. Go to them, show them what you want to do. They might be able to give you ideas, even related to what things they've seen or heard. And the internet now is giving us so much more information that I encourage every one of you, no matter how small your operation, you need to have a website. As I'm researching Greece right now, I go to see if they have a website. I see if they're on TripAdvisor. Those two things now are how I'm planning my international destinations. So marketing isn't that hard. You might need to find someone to design your website. And actually, when I had my own business, I had a website. I do have a website designer that worked with me, and we designed websites because that was like the missing link. And hopefully wherever you are, in whatever country you are, you can find someone to help you to do that. I thank you for allowing me to participate in this meeting. Thank you very much, Pandering. Thank you, Ravita. It has been a pleasure to be here. I could speak for hours about this, and I could have shown a lot of pictures, but I thought maybe that was a little bit distracting. Hope I didn't speak too fast for you, and I enjoyed being here, and thank you so much for allowing me to participate.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The journey of your business is worth learning from. Exceeding our own expectations is a standard of ultimate success. As you rightly stated, the assets in the property shall be recognized to tap the potential and generate revenue. Intangible assets are something that we set as a second priority to the tangible assets. Both of them shall go hand in hand in order to succeed. Madam, being the sixth generation farmer's daughter and having hands-on experience for over 20 years, no wonder you have been awarded, or you are the awardee of the World Agri-Tourism Award in 2008, organized in India. This was Jane Eckert, madam, teaching the how-tos of agri-tourism. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sparing your time with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Today's theme is rural women entrepreneurship opportunities in agri-tourism. Our last speaker for the day is dealing with this concept, with this theme itself. She is the owner of Sukh Agri-Tourism Farm Center in India, Ms. Rutuja Khalatkar. Welcome, ma'am. How are you? Rutuja, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Namaskar. Hello. Good evening, everyone. I am Rutuja Khalatkar. And today I will be, actually, first of all, I would really like to thank Pandurang Tavre sir for giving me this opportunity to speak on this occasion of World Agri-Tourism Day. I'll just start my PPT. Okay. Yeah. Can you see it? Okay. So, first of all, I'll introduce myself. I'm Rutuja Khalatkar, and I am a farmer, and I am farmer's daughter also. So, actually, I appreciate and I would really like to congratulate on the topic of this conference, like rural women sustainable entrepreneurship opportunities through agri-tourism. It is high time now that we actually recognize and we promote the very vital role of women in agriculture and agriculture tourism. So I own Sukh Agro Farm, and our farm is owned by women, created by women, and promoted by women. So it is my mother's initiative to start with it. Actually, initially it was just a farm and we had only farmhouse, which was just for ourselves. But eventually, with the guidance of Pandurang sir, we converted it into agricultural tourism. And now, after like 7 years, now we are good established farm near Pune in Maharashtra, India. So for Sukh Agro Farm, agri-tourism, actually, it means everything. It means happiness. It means everything for us. And in agri-tourism, what we do is we plan farming activities involving our guests and local people. And then we have organic sustainable products made from local produce from our farm, and even with our neighbor farmers produce. Then we have different traditional seasonal local cuisines which we provide to our tourists, and then we employ local women for farming and for local production also. So our farming activities which involve guests, they are mainly rice plantation event. So in different time of the year, we have different kinds of agricultural activities going on. So when it's rice plantation time, we do involve lot of tourists and guests. They come visit our farm and they actually go into the mud and plant rice with us. So this is what we do. Then if for example, whatever may be the activity is going on in our farm, like vegetable picking or some fruit picking or plowing, harvesting, we include our guests. We take their participation in our activities. That is our main focus. Similarly, in such activities, we actually need and we get help from local women, local village women, and here they get chance to like involve and talk to our guests and tourists, and then build a connect which would give them opportunities. So because of this pandemic situation, uh, when our businesses were hitting quite low, what we did was we came up with an idea and we started some products which are locally sourced, either from our farm or from neighboring farm. And then we involved women of the village to participate in it. And we, be it different kinds of pickles or papad or some other edible items, we took their help and we created a different market for it. And we have sustained through this pandemic. Also, see, the traditional seasonal local cuisines. So every state, village has its own culture, has its own taste, right? So it is, as a agri-tourism center owner, I think it is kind of my responsibility that it is my job to provide such experience to my tourists. And for that, I get help from I get help and I get knowledge from the local women there. Even we do have other activities like postcard writing, and for example, when we have our festival Diwali, uh, it is our Maharashtrian way to praise, to remember our most precious, the most greatest warrior, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, by building a fort. So we have fort making activities also. Last but not the least, I would really like to say that it is high time, and now I think, me being a woman in this business, I would say encouraging rural women to involve in agriculture tourism is best way to help them grow and help them succeed in so many different ways. For example, you will be knowing the other statistics from the articles and the news. But what I have experienced, what I have seen, what I have observed is that women from village, they have many restrictions. Like they are not always allowed to go outside their village and work in a factory or have higher education or go abroad. It's rarely happens. It's sad reality. But when it comes to agriculture, uh, they are not restrained. I mean, their families allow them to work in farm. That is okay. So farming and farming related activities, when it comes to that, they have greater scope there. And we, being in this business, we can help them through various opportunities. First of all, this will like create employment for them. For example, either at my farm or maybe through some of their produces or some artifacts or food items. It is their chance to earn extra money. It is their chance to actually have an opportunity. And this will also give them a dignity which generally women crave for. Also, here, through this business, uh, they can train themselves very well for betterment, as in terms of hospitality. And then they have this, then here they can have like rural urban connect, where they can talk to people and then they can build their own contacts, so that when they have their own produces, they'll know how to get exposure. And this is what we do at Souk Agro Farm. And I would really suggest everyone that even they should, whenever they see an opportunity that they can somehow help women from village to have greater future, they should. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, madam. Rutuja madam is a young entrepreneur and at the same time a confident woman and full of dynamism. Your farm is owned by a woman, run by a woman, and promoted by a woman. When a woman farmer is empowered, the country is empowered. The active participation of the tourists and the owner in farm activities is something that we all should learn from. Even during the pandemic situations, you have come up with innovative ideas in order to sustain your business. Hats off to you, ma'am. In Souk Agri-Tourism Center, we truly find our souk, that is the peace and happiness that we all long for. Thank you so much, madam, for being present with us today. Thanks a lot. Today's program was a rich profusion of knowledge from India, Philippines, Italy, South Africa, Scotland, Greece, and USA. We have all appreciated and recognized the true potential of agriculture and farm tourism and the strength of rural women in this sphere from the leading experts present today. Rural women are predominantly working towards the achievement of the pure desire, and their social footprint is remarkable. If you age today, thank a farmer. With this, we conclude our day one technical session. Tomorrow, 16th May 2021, Sunday, we shall commence our technical session day 2 at 9 hours IST. We shall interact with experts who will share their knowledge about USA farmer stays and virtual tours in Philippines, India, Thailand, and Uganda. Each farm tour is a masterpiece and serves as a role model for the upcoming farm tourism ventures. The technical session shall be followed by the most awaited prestigious award ceremony 2021. We wholeheartedly thank the Government of India, guests of honor, respected panelists, and esteemed participants for making today's program successful. Without the Department of Tourism, Government of Maharashtra, this wouldn't have been possible. The support of our event partners, Agri-Tourism India, Department of Tourism, Government of Maharashtra, and global supporters, Incredible India, RHD India, Manage India, Aarti India, the Responsible Tourism Society of India, International School of Sustainable Tourism Philippines, Asian Eco Agri-Tourism Network, Track Research Italy, Agri-Tourism Platform, Holidays on the Farm, Austria, Rotterdam, Italy, US Farm Stays, USA, Go Rural, Scotland, Agri-Tourism, South Africa, Agri-Tourism World, Hawaii Agri-Tourism Association, Minimura Farms, Thailand, NC Agri-Tourism, North Carolina, USA, Uganda Agri-Tourism Network, the University of Vermont, Burlington, Kurt Agri-Marketing, USA, Agri-Tourism Gatherings, and Karma Yogi Baba Raoji, Zogan College of Agriculture, India, has been tremendous and continuous. We appreciate and acknowledge your guidance and support. Thank you so much for sparing your time today. You are kindly requested to join the seminar on time. Thank you. Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra. Thank you so much.
Everybody start their video so that we will have Revati, you can take a screenshot.
Yes.
You can start the video. Everybody can start the video, please. Charini, you can start the video. Ashwini ma'am. Kotkar madam, please start the video. Andrea, you are here and I'm glad to see you here. Andrea, you can start the video. Jen, yes. Smith. Jackie, you are here. Charini, are you there? Jackie, you are there? Varji, you are there? If you are there, please start the video.
It is wonderful to see maximum women over here. Hats off to the women empowerment.
So thank you so much, all the brilliant speakers from USA, from Greece, from Philippines. Today was wonderful learning, because learning never stops. Pandemic comes and go, but learning should not stop, and that is what we have done today. Thank you so much. Good night from India. See you tomorrow morning.
Thank you.